The security environment of Northern Europe has entered a phase where air surveillance is no longer a background capability, but a central pillar of deterrence and crisis management. The Baltic Sea, the Skagerrak, and the Kattegat have effectively merged into a single operational space in which military aircraft, long-range missiles, unmanned aerial systems, and electronic warfare assets move with increasing frequency and sophistication. In this environment, Denmark's decision to procure the TPY-4 radar system represents far more than a routine modernization project. It is a strategic adjustment that reflects how Denmark and the Nordic region more broadly now understands air defense, alliance integration, and long-term security. For decades, Denmark's defense posture emphasized maritime control, expeditionary contributions to allied operations, and selective investments in air and naval power. Air surveillance existed, but it was largely shaped by Cold War-era assumptions and later by post-Cold War stability. That context has changed fundamentally. Today's threats are not defined solely by fast jets crossing borders, but by layered challenges that include low-flying cruise missiles, long-endurance drones, ambiguous air activities, and sophisticated electronic attack. In such a setting, the ability to see first and to share that information rapidly has become as decisive as the ability to intercept. This shift explains why Denmark has prioritized a new generation of long-range radar rather than incremental upgrades to existing systems. Legacy radars were designed for a different problem set, one where threats were fewer, more predictable, and easier to classify. Modern air operations, particularly in the Baltic and high north, exploit complexity. Targets are smaller, fly lower, and operate within crowded civilian airspace. Electronic interference is no longer an exceptional scenario, but an expected feature of any serious contingency. Denmark's requirement, therefore, was not merely for longer range, but for resilience, discrimination, and integration. The TPY-4 radar fits this requirement precisely. As an active electronically scanned array system, it provides continuous, wide-area coverage with high sensitivity and the ability to track multiple targets simultaneously. More importantly, it is designed to operate as part of a network rather than as a standalone sensor. In Nordic conditions, where weather, terrain, and long operating cycles impose demanding standards, reliability and sustained performance matter as much as raw technical specifications. The TPY-4 is not simply a national air defense asset. It is a strategic sensor intended to feed a broader information architecture. This distinction is critical for understanding why Denmark's procurement has implications beyond its own airspace. Denmark occupies a geographically and operationally central position in Northern Europe. It connects the Baltic Sea to the North Sea, links continental Europe with Scandinavia, and hosts key maritime and air transit routes. In practical terms, this makes Danish sensors disproportionately valuable to allies. Data generated over Danish territory can enhance situational awareness far beyond Denmark's borders, contributing to a shared operational picture that benefits Sweden, Norway, Finland, and the wider alliance. The integration dimension is where the strategic weight of this decision becomes most apparent. With Finland and Sweden now fully embedded in NATO, the Nordic region is transitioning from a collection of closely cooperating national forces into a more coherent regional defense system. Sensors such as the TPY-4 are foundational to this transformation. They allow disparate air defense units, command centers, and allied aircraft to operate from the same understanding of the air environment. In effect, Denmark's radar becomes one node in a distributed network that stretches across Northern Europe. This approach reflects a distinct Nordic defense philosophy. Rather than pursuing symbolic prestige platforms or large-scale offensive systems, Nordic countries tend to invest in enabling capabilities that multiply collective effectiveness. Early warning is one of the most powerful such enablers. Detecting threats earlier extends decision time, reduces uncertainty, and lowers the risk of miscalculation. In deterrence terms, this is invaluable It signals preparedness without provocation and strengthens stability by reducing the incentives for surprise or ambiguity. The Russian factor inevitably looms in any discussion of Northern European air defense, but it is important to frame this influence carefully. Denmark's acquisition of the TPY-4 does not represent an escalation or a shift toward offensive posturing. On the contrary, it is a defensive measure designed to improve transparency and predictability. By shrinking the space for surprise, advanced surveillance systems make crises more manageable rather than more dangerous. This aligns closely with the Nordic tradition of combining firm defense with restraint and clear signaling. Budgetary logic also plays a role in explaining Denmark's choice. Defense resources, even when increasing, remain finite. Investing in a high-end sensor that enhances the effectiveness of existing fighters, surface-to-air missile units, and command systems can deliver greater returns than dispersing funds across numerous smaller upgrades. In this sense, the TPY-4 serves as a force multiplier. It improves the performance of systems Denmark already operates and increases the value of allied assets that rely on shared situational awareness. Looking ahead toward the end of the decade, Denmark's radar procurement should be understood as a foundation rather than a final step. The trajectory of Nordic defense points toward deeper integration across domains. Ground-based radars will increasingly be linked with airborne sensors, unmanned platforms, space-based surveillance, and cyber capabilities. The goal is not simply coverage, but continuity and resilience in the face of disruption. Denmark's decision positions it well to participate in this evolution, ensuring that it remains a credible and constructive contributor to regional security. In strategic terms, the significance of Denmark's TPY-4 purchase lies in what it represents about changing priorities. Air defense is no longer defined narrowly as intercepting hostile aircraft. It is about information dominance, alliance cohesion, and the management of risk in a contested environment. Denmark has chosen to invest where it matters most, in seeing clearly, sharing effectively, and acting collectively. This choice may not generate dramatic headlines or immediate visible effects, but its impact will be long-lasting. As Northern Europe continues to adapt to a more demanding security environment, capabilities that underpin cooperation and trust will be decisive. Denmark's radar acquisition exemplifies this logic. It is a quiet investment with strategic consequences, reinforcing the idea that in modern defense, awareness is power and integration is strength.